The moment I saw the corpse of my 2-year-old son, my heart went completely numb. I knew the mission to win over Willow had failed again. The system spoke. Targeting the second female lead failed. Host will remain in this world forever. Until death by old age. The very next second, Willow threw herself into my arms, crying so hard she could barely breathe. That same fragile, shattered look, begging for comfort, but instead of feeling any pity, I felt utterly disgusted. She was the one who killed my son. How could she still act like the wronged one? When I didn't respond, Willow said irritably, "Who are you making that sour face for? Is it really that serious? I'll just give you another child in the future, won't I? This is a novel world. In the real world, I was taking care of my critically ill mother, faced with overwhelming medical bills. Just as I was losing all hope, the system pulled me into this world. As long as I successfully win over the abused second female lead, the girl bullied and tormented by the male protagonist, and help her survive, I would receive a huge sum of money and return to reality. Then my mother could live. If I failed, I would be trapped in this world forever. Until the end of my life. This was my 4th attempt at conquering Willow. In the previous attempts, Willow had always fallen in love with the male protagonist, Makoto, the very person who abused her and destroyed her family. This time, she still fell in love with him. To go find Makoto, she ended up causing the death of our child. At this moment, hearing Willow's words, I fixed my eyes on her neck and said, word by word, "In the future? There won't be any future." The system said, "Ding. Host emotional fluctuation detected. Please calm down as soon as." Wait, no. You've already killed her 3 times. Before the system could even finish speaking, the sharp blade in my hand had already fiercely slit Willow's throat. If I can't go back, my mother will die. So then, Willow has to die too. Chapter 1. Looking at the small bed not far away, the tiny child lay there so quietly. I wanted to step forward, but my feet wouldn't move, as if weighed down by 1,000 pounds. My face was deathly pale. My breathing felt like it had stopped, and my trembling hands kept reaching forward, then pulling back. Willow's voice shook as she said, "I'm sorry, George, it's all my fault. Makoto was injured and hospitalized. He called me, but Jack was having so much fun playing in the park, so I had no choice but to leave him there for a while. But I don't know what happened. When I went back, I found that he had run into the middle of the road and was hit by a car. On the way to the hospital, She threw herself into my arms, her voice choked with sobs. Let's have another child. Okay, yes, another one. Jack will come back to us." Hearing Willow's words, I opened my mouth, but not a single sound came out. Jack, I have already been reborn 4 times. I don't love Willow, I actually hate her, but I have to win her over. Jack is my son, my only anchor in this world, in this life, from the moment he was born. I personally took care of him to prevent any accidents, and yet, just one day, one business trip, Willow took Jack to the park, and he was gone. I thought this time I would finally succeed in completing the mission, but in the end, it was all in vain. At this moment, it felt as if countless needles were piercing my heart. This is my 4th attempt at conquering Willow, and also the one that lasted the longest, yet I still couldn't escape the fate of her falling in love with the male lead. In my previous attempts, I saved Willow from Makoto countless times. When the male lead bullied her and tried to break her hands, I showed up in time and called the police, saving her. When he pushed her onto the train tracks, I risked my life to pull her back. When he destroyed her entire family, I was still the one who pulled her out of despair, raising her, cherishing her, and yet, Willow is nothing but a pathetic fool. In every life, she falls for the male lead, and betrays me because of him. Fortunately, every time the system declared my mission a failure, I would find a way to kill Willow. If I can't go back, then she doesn't deserve to live either. At this moment, my gaze gradually hardened, fixing tightly on Willow's pale neck. I've already killed her 3 times. One more won't make a difference. Chapter 2. I slowly reached up and placed my hand on her neck, then gripped the back of it, squeezing lightly. My voice was low and steady. Just because you wanted to go find Makoto, you left my son there all by himself. Willow pressed her lips together, her eyes filled with grievance. I didn't know the child would run onto the road. After a pause, she added, "And this isn't Makoto's fault either. I was the one who went to find him." Her voice was soft, carrying a trace of helpless complaint as she blamed me. "Isn't it your fault for not teaching the kid properly? Why was he running around like that?" Hearing that, my temples throbbed instantly. She was blaming me, blaming a 2-year-old child for running around. I lowered my head and looked at her coldly. "What did you just say?" She turned her head slightly, avoiding my gaze. She said, Alright, honey, aren't you just worried that I might end up with Makoto? Don't worry, that's absolutely impossible. I only went to see him because he was injured and needed help. She continued. If we could have been together, we would have been together long ago. Can you stop overthinking, please? She glanced at Jack, then added. Alright, just take care of the child's funeral arrangements. Didn't I already say? I can just give you another one in the future. Let's just move on from this. Move on. This would never be something that could be moved on from. I truly didn't care who she loved, in my eyes. Whether she loved Makoto, Kaito, Naruto, or even a pig, a dog, any disgusting creature, it didn't matter. All I wanted was to complete the mission, get the money, and go back to save my mother. Hearing her words, I let out a heavy sigh. The phrase mission failed kept echoing in my mind. I was exhausted. It was time to start another rebirth again. So I opened my mouth and said, "It's okay, it'll be over soon, just bear with it." My voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for her to hear. Willow looked confused. What? I ignored her. In an instant, I swiftly pulled out the sharp knife from my pocket, the one I had prepared on the very first day after my rebirth. I had always been ready. The moment the system declared the mission a failure, I would kill Willow. There was no way I would stay in this world until I died of old age. My mother was still waiting for me to return. If the mission failed, then I would kill Willow and start the conquest all over again. The system cried out in panic. Ding! Detected extreme emotional fluctuation from the host. Please, you've already killed her 3 times, and you're doing it again. No, don't. Before it could finish, I had already slashed Willow's throat open with a single stroke. Willow screamed in pain, but only a distorted, airy sound came out. Blood burst out instantly. She clutched her neck, staring at me in disbelief as she staggered backward. Her lips moved, but only blood spilled from her mouth. Her voice was faint and ragged. Ha. George, you actually. She tried to escape, but I grabbed her and pinned her down, not letting her break free. Then I stabbed again, driving the blade deep through her back. A cold smile curled at the corner of my lips. Willow, you bitch, you deserve to die. I regret saving you. I should have let Makoto kill you. Don't worry, you'll go to hell. Your parents are waiting for you down there. They'll want to ask why you fell in love with the men who murdered them. That's right. In this life, Makoto had run over and killed Willow's parents. Yet Willow had signed a letter of forgiveness and used every connection she had to get him released. Willow's eyes widened in terror, her voice trembling and broken. No, don't kill me. Before she could finish, I used all my strength to plunge the knife deep into her chest. I pulled it out, then stabbed it in again. By now, the ground was completely soaked with her blood. At last, she lay in the pool of blood, eyes wide open, dead without closure. I gasped for air, completely drained, collapsing onto the ground. The system spoke. Why bother? Even if you kill her, the mission still won't be completed. You'll just have to be reborn all over again. I let out a cold laugh. If I don't kill her, I'd have to live in this world until I die of old age before returning to my original world. And I'd still have no money, still unable to save my mother. I'd rather just kill her. Chapter 3. As the system let out a sigh, the space before my eyes suddenly twisted and shifted. I was undergoing my 5th rebirth. Since Willow seemed to enjoy being mistreated so much, this time, I no longer wanted to save or redeem her. When I opened my eyes again, a familiar scene came into view. I turned my head and saw Makoto barking orders, directing a group of lackeys to drag Willow into an alley. Makoto had failed his college entrance exams, while Willow performed normally and got into her dream university. So Makoto followed her to the university, and began his bullying. This rebirth point was exactly the same moment as in the previous life. Expressionless, I watched as Makoto kicked Willow into a corner and spat on her face. With a sinister smile, he said, "Willow, I told you, you'll never escape me in this lifetime. This is what you owe me." He continued. "We grew up together. Why is it that when my family went bankrupt, yours stayed perfectly fine? That's not fair. My parents are gone. The company is gone. I've lost everything. You owe me your whole life." They had been neighbors since childhood sweethearts. But later, the Ito family went bankrupt, and Makoto Ito's mind twisted. He became convinced that Willow should fall into the same misery as him. Willow said nothing. She simply bit her lower lip tightly, staring at him with defiance. Back then, when I saw her not resisting, I thought her pride had been crushed. But thinking about it now, she was just messed up, someone who actually enjoyed being humiliated and abused. I would never forget, in the 3rd life, we were in the same car when the accident happened. I lay in a pool of blood, calling out to Willow again and again, but she didn't respond to me at all. She only focused on saving Makoto. What did she say back then? She said, "George, I have to save Makoto first. He's lost so much blood, his life might be in danger." Hearing that, My breathing stopped instantly. Blood from my head flowed straight into my eyes. I opened my mouth, but couldn't make a sound from the pain. Then she helped Makoto to a safe place, and watched me burn to death with an innocent expression. And as the car caught fire, Makoto laughed wildly, shouting over and over, "Serves you right." He blamed me for taking Willow away from him. He wanted to torment and kill her. My thoughts snapped back to the present. From a distance, I saw Makoto sneering. He signaled one of his lackeys, then picked up the stick handed to him. Bang, bang, bang. With several heavy blows, he beat Willow to the ground until she coughed up blood. Ha, ha. Another mouthful of blood spilled out. Willow cried out to Makoto in pain. "Please, don't. I'm begging you." Makoto only sneered. He grabbed her by the hair, forcing her to look at him. "Beg me. It won't help. Little princess, you've lived too comfortably. I think I should cripple one of your arms." He continued. "They all say I'm mentally twisted, a cripple. So how about I turn you into a cripple too? That way, we'll be the same." Ha ha ha. Hearing that, a flicker of panic passed through Willow's eyes, but only for a moment. She didn't believe it. She refused to believe Makoto would treat her like this. She refused to believe he hated her that much. I once asked her, "Willow, why is it that even when Makoto nearly killed you, you still end up falling for him?" Back then, she looked into the distance, her eyes filled with a trace of hope and longing. She said, "George, you don't understand what we have. Makoto would never hurt me, let alone kill me. If you hadn't shown up, I would have been just fine. I'm an independent person with my own thoughts. Don't think that just because you saved me, I owe you anything, or that I should repay you with my body. I never asked you to save me. You chose to do that yourself. So don't try to use your so-called kindness to control me or emotionally manipulate me." Chapter 4. The heavy sound of the stick striking echoed out as Willow's right hand was repeatedly smashed. "Ah, it hurts, my hand." "No, don't." Just as Makoto was about to swing the second blow, one of his lackeys noticed me. He pulled Makoto aside and whispered, "Boss, there's someone over there. If he calls the police, we're screwed." Seeing their gazes turn toward me, I quickly raised my hand. "Hey, don't worry, man. I hate sticking my nose into other people's business. Besides, I'm blind. I can't see anything." After saying that, I pretended not to see them and walked past as if nothing was happening. At the moment I passed by them, I heard Willow's pleading voice behind me. "Please, don't go, don't, save me, please save me." But soon, another strike cut off her cries for help. From behind me came Makoto's mocking voice as he laughed. "Smart kid, you know what's good for you." The system, however, panicked. "You're really not going to save her? Then how are you going to complete the mission? If she doesn't end up with you, she'll follow the original storyline and commit suicide." I scoffed disdainfully. "Save her? Like hell I would. She's fucking toxic. It's doomed to fail no matter what anyway. If she wants to self-destruct, then let her die." The alley continued to echo with miserable screams. After a while, the sound stopped. The next day, everyone knew Willow's right hand had been completely ruined. She was disabled. The next time I saw Willow was a month later. Now, she couldn't even spread her hands properly. She could only raise her left hand to block my way, glaring at me with resentment. I casually glanced at her right side. There was nothing there. I had heard that her right hand had been beaten beyond recovery, and because she wasn't sent to the hospital in time, it had to be amputated. I let out a cold laugh, feeling a faint sense of satisfaction. The male lead had really gone all out trying to cripple her. "Why didn't you save me?" She clenched her left hand tightly, her voice filled with hatred. I sneered, rubbing my chin as I looked at her. "Save you? Who are you to me? Why should I save you?" She said angrily. "You clearly saw them bullying me. You could have called the police or gotten someone to help, but you just ignored me." I shook my head. "No obligation." She frowned. "What?" I said. "I have no obligation to save you." I smiled faintly. "For all I know, this could just be some twisted little roleplay between you and Makoto. If I stepped in, you might have blamed me for interfering. Or what? What if I saved you and turned out to be a narcissist, using that favor to emotionally manipulate you? So I won't save you. Not in this life. Not in the next. Not in any life." Hearing my words, her chest rose and fell violently with anger. The empty sleeve where her right arm used to be fluttered in the air. It looked almost ridiculous. After a moment of silence, tears streamed down her face as she choked out, "My right hand is gone now. What am I supposed to do? This wasn't supposed to happen. Why would you do this to me? This is all your fault, your fault." What? I almost laughed out of sheer disbelief. Curling my lips into a mocking smile, I looked at her and said, "You don't blame Makoto, the one who caused you to lose your arm, but instead you blame a passerby like me. You really are something else. Pretty pathetic, honestly." I continued. "I heard you didn't even report Makoto to the police, and you didn't let your family take revenge either. People as saintly as you are rare these days. I almost feel like applauding you. So could you stop showing up in front of me? It's honestly disgusting. I was about to leave, but she stepped in front of me again. Her eyes widened. Then she shook her head in disbelief, biting her lip. That's not how it's supposed to be. Weren't you supposed to come for me? Why didn't you save me? Hearing that, my expression turned serious instantly. Could it be, she's been reborn too? That thought crossed my mind. So I asked the system directly. The system replied, no idea, whatever. I'm so sick of her. What's with this fake deep affection now? It kept ranting about Willow, growing more vulgar with each word. Maybe it had already given up, since the mission was impossible to complete anyway. However, just as I turned to leave, Willow suddenly grabbed my sleeve. Her eyes were red, filled with urgency. She was asking me for help. I immediately smacked my forehead, snapping myself out of that thought. What was I even thinking? She was clearly just acting up again. Chapter 5. After that, I stopped paying attention to Willow. According to the original storyline, without an outsider like me to save her, she was destined to die. All I needed to do was wait quietly for news of her death. I began to enjoy university life, studying seriously, joining clubs, making friends, eating good food. This was a life I had never had before. In the real world, I came from a poor family. To pay for my mother's medical expenses, I had dropped out early to work. Coming here was, in a way, the fulfillment of my college dream. When I first started the conquest, I asked the system, if the mission keeps failing, what will happen to me? The system replied, you will remain in this world until you die. After death, you will be sent back to the real world, returning to the exact moment you disappeared. I had truly tried, really tried, to win Willow over. In front of her, I had even turned into a complete simp, throwing away all dignity and self-respect just to please her, but I still couldn't succeed. In Willow's eyes, there was only Makoto, or rather, her heart had always belonged to him. I had failed my mother. After all this effort, I still hadn't managed to earn the money for her treatment. She must be so disappointed. A month later, I stood at the school entrance and saw a crowd gathered around Willow Lu. People were snickering, whispering among themselves, look, that's the Lu family's rich daughter. What a pity, she's crippled now. Another person chimed in. Her mom wanted Makoto to go to jail, but she stopped it, saying it wasn't intentional. What a hopeless love-struck idiot. Someone else added. I heard she used to be really favored, but ever since she became disabled, her dad brought his mistress and illegitimate son home. Another person exclaimed. Damn, then her mom must hate her. The reply came. Of course, her mom already hanged herself because of her. Hearing all this, Willow's face flushed red as she lowered her head even further. I glanced at her briefly, then walked away. Back then, I had supported her, provided for her. Yet she always said she was suffering alongside me, and that even without me, she would still live well. Now, I suppose she was living quite well, wasn't she? As I walked out of the teaching building, a sudden scream came from above. Ah! Following the crowd's gaze, I looked up toward the rooftop. It was Willow. She stood on top of the building, swaying as if she could fall at any moment. Through tears, she cried out. Why was I the one who lost my arm? I didn't do anything wrong. Why does everyone blame me? Do you even know what I've gone through? I've lost everything. My entire life is gone. All gone. Then she screamed hysterically. George, why didn't you save me? Didn't you say you loved me the most? You clearly saw me. Why didn't you save me? Look at me now. Are you satisfied? You murderer, this is all your fault. You turned me into this. As soon as she said that, the people around began looking at me, whispering. I could vaguely hear the word jerk being thrown around. I let out a cold laugh. As expected, Willow was still as selfish, disgusting, and shameless as ever. I looked at her indifferently, about to mock her a little, but before I could react, a loud boom rang out. Willow jumped. After losing her arm, the Lu family had cast her and her mother out. Her father brought his mistress and illegitimate son into the house, handing over all the family assets and company to that son. Since Willow hadn't reported him, Makoto continued to bully and torment her every day. Her mother, unable to bear the rumors and pressure, took her own life. Soon after, Willow was diagnosed with severe depression. Without my intervention, this had always been her original ending. Chapter 6. Just as I was thinking about how the story would develop next, my vision suddenly blurred. I squeezed my eyes shut, and the space in front of me twisted and warped once again. Willow, go to hell. At the sound of that voice, I turned to look. Makoto was dragging Willow toward the train tracks. I immediately understood. This had fast-forwarded straight to the next key plot point. This railway track was strictly off-limits. No one would come here, except me. But this time, I wasn't going to save Willow. Makoto tightly bound Willow's legs to the tracks and sneered. Willow, keep pretending to be all high and mighty. When the train comes, let's see how you keep up that rich girl act. Although Makoto was furious, veins bulging on his forehead. Willow still looked completely certain. She lifted her chin, her eyes shimmering as she said, "Makoto, you wouldn't do this to me." Maybe those words triggered him. He grabbed her by the hair and slapped her hard, 8 times in a row. Satisfying. A trace of blood appeared at the corner of Willow's mouth. I had never felt that Makoto liked Willow. It seemed that what he felt for her was pure hatred. After he got tired of hitting her, he slowly stood up, and at that moment, he saw me. Our eyes met. A flash of panic crossed his face. Makoto grabbed a wrench, looking wary. "George, why are you here? Are you here to save her?" I glanced at Willow on the ground, then waved my hand dismissively. "Hey, don't get worked up. Didn't I already say last time? I respect other people's fate. I never meddle in others' business. Why don't you ask her whether she even wants someone to save her?" Silence fell. Willow glanced at me, then let out a cold snort and turned her head away without saying a word. What was that supposed to mean? The system couldn't hold back anymore and cursed. "Damn, that's under a look. Let's go. Host, this love-obsessed idiot is beyond saving." I let out a cold laugh, turned around, and said, "Sigh, how did I get lost? Should be this way instead." Chapter 7. I had only walked for about 3 minutes when a scream echoed from the distance. Willow's legs had been crushed. She became disabled once again. On TV, footage showed Willow being carried into an ambulance. Her legs were completely mangled, flesh torn apart, her whole body curled up, her face filled with agony. Behind her, Makoto was being escorted by the police, looking utterly indifferent. The news of Willow's amputated legs was broadcast for an entire week. This time, the whole city, perhaps even the entire country, knew she had become disabled. However, just as I was waiting to hear news of her suicide, I saw her instead, sitting in a wheelchair not far away, coming toward me. Her face was pale, her expression haggard. She looked at me pitifully and said, "George, you've been reborn too, haven't you?" "What, too?" Actually, the last time she accused me of not saving her, I had already realized she had been reborn. I just didn't expect that she had been reborn again. Seeing that I didn't respond, Willow grew anxious and spoke again. "Say something. You've been reborn, right? Then why didn't you save me? Why? Answer me." She gripped the wheelchair handles tightly, shouting hysterically. The corner of my lips curled up as I spoke in a teasing tone. "Why should I save you? Didn't you say it yourself? I don't understand the bond between you and Makoto. You said he would never hurt you, that even without me, you'd still be fine. So what, regretting it now?" I chuckled lightly. "I just did exactly what you said." After hearing my words, her face flushed red, her lower lip almost bleeding from how hard she bit it. She screamed like she had lost her mind. "No, this isn't how it's supposed to be. George, you love me. Didn't you say you loved me? Then why are you treating me like this? Why? Those things I said were just jokes. How could you take them seriously?" I looked at her coldly and interrupted her word by word. But I wasn't joking. I didn't want to keep entangling myself with her. Just as I was about to leave, she rolled her wheelchair forward, trying to block me. She shouted, "George, you can't go. Come back." She reached out to grab me, but I impatiently shoved her away. Clang. Willow fell completely out of her wheelchair. She clutched onto my pant leg tightly, choking with sobs. "George, husband, are you abandoning me? Please don't leave me. I only have you now." Before I could speak, she continued, "George, let's get married. Okay, then we can be together forever. I can even give you another child, maybe it'll be Jack. Our family of 3 can." Slap. Before she could finish, I struck her hard across the face, grinding my teeth. I said, "Shut up, you don't deserve to say Jack's name." She lowered her gaze, her voice fragmented but stubborn as she said, "George, even if everyone else abandons me, you can't. You have to stay with me. You have to take responsibility." She continued, "Didn't you say you would always redeem me? A man should keep his word." I looked at her with utter disgust, my face practically twisting in revulsion, completely speechless inside. Chapter 8. As I pried her hand off me, I said with a playful grin, "First of all, whether I'm a real man or not isn't for you to decide. Second, if something was said as a joke, and you take it seriously, how gullible can you be? Willow, you really should use your brain more. Otherwise, you wouldn't have ended up this miserable." After that, I pulled my leg free and walked away without looking back. A few days later, Willow threw herself onto the railway tracks and killed herself. When I heard the news, I was basking in the sunlight. Nice. One more time, and I could go back to see my mom. When I opened my eyes again, the story had advanced once more. Noise filled the air. A group of police officers were escorting Willow away. As she passed by me, she opened her mouth and said, "George, Makoto didn't do it on purpose. I believe he'll get me out. Don't hurt Makoto." Even now, she still looked so confident and certain, proud and willful as ever. It was almost laughable. This time, Makoto had infiltrated the Lu Corporation and sold company information to a rival, pushing the company to the brink of bankruptcy. Willow had been framed and imprisoned. Her father's illegitimate son accused her of leaking company secrets to her boyfriend. And Willow, acting like some cryptic fool, willingly took the blame, saying it was all her fault, never once revealing Makoto's name. Watching her being pushed into the police car, I felt an overwhelming sense of satisfaction. Makoto will save you. Keep dreaming. He'd probably rather see you die right in front of him. In the first life, I had actually tried everything to save her, investigating, gathering evidence, begging everyone I could. After finally getting her out, what did she do? She went looking for Makoto. She said she was worried he'd feel guilty because she went to prison for him. I rubbed my temples and muttered. Tell me, after saving someone this brain dead so many times, doesn't that make me the idiot? The system sighed. Well, maybe a little, but it was just the mission. You didn't really have a choice. So, save Willow. Not a chance. Absolutely not. In this life, without me, she'd probably spend the rest of her days rotting in prison. Chapter 9. A week later, Willow tried every possible way to have someone notify me to go see her. In the prison visiting room, Willow had dark circles under her eyes, looking utterly dispirited and exhausted. She frowned and said, George, get me out of here. Seeing her still acting so arrogant and overbearing, I knew she had been reborn once again. I nodded, then replied concisely, No, I said. Didn't you say Makoto would save you? Bang. She angrily slammed the table, her voice suddenly rising as Willow shouted, I told you to save me. Don't you understand human language? Save me. Looking at her furious, humiliated, and hysterical state, I found it utterly ridiculous, so I stood up, straightened my tie, and said word by word, Willow, are you ready to embrace your prison life? Without waiting for her reaction, I turned and left. Behind me came her hysterical screams as she shouted, Ah, George, you jerk, you can't leave, come back and save me. She cried, George, I was wrong, I really know I was wrong, I'm begging you, don't go, please don't go, you're the only one who can save me, George. Her voice gradually faded away. A month later, I finally heard the news of Willow's death once again. As time and space shifted, the system chattered, Host, you have no idea how miserably Willow died. I raised an eyebrow and asked, How miserable? The system clicked its tongue and said, While in prison, she was brutally abused. After being assaulted, unable to bear the humiliation, she stabbed herself to death with a pen. At this moment, I felt neither love nor hatred toward Willow. There was no longer any connection between us. All those years of obsession had ultimately been in vain. Perhaps effort has never been equal to outcome. What people can do is simply walk the path they're meant to take as best as they can. As for where it leads, one can only accept it calmly. When I returned to the real world, ready to accompany my mother through her final days, the system informed me that Makoto had given me a large sum of money. I looked at the money in confusion and asked, What does this mean? I don't have any relationship with him at all, do I? Then something suddenly struck me. I jolted, shocked, and said, Wait, don't tell me Makoto likes me. Damn, then the way he treated Willow, could it be? The system replied, I don't know. He only said, Thank you for saving me. Thank you for not saving Willow. Forget it. Judge by actions, not intentions. In my heart, I thanked Makoto, and used that money to save my mother's life. From then on, everything was peaceful. It's just that in my spare moments, I still occasionally think about it. Makoto seemed so obsessive. What was the reason? If someone had once redeemed him, would everything have turned out differently? Chapter 10, Extra. Makoto's story. Willow and I grew up together. We were childhood sweethearts. I always thought that when we grew up, we would naturally end up together. But life is unpredictable. When I was 16, Willow took advantage of my trust. After entering my home, she poisoned my parents to death. In a single day, I lost the parents who loved me the most. And what about Willow? She pretended to be innocent and pitiful, crying as she told me that her father had forced her to do it, begging me to forgive her. Forgive her? Forgiving her would be easy, but who would give me back my parents' lives? All I wanted was for them to be punished by the law. But the Lu family was powerful and wealthy. They bribed officials and pulled strings. Not only did they escape punishment, they even swallowed up all of the Ito family's business. My life fell into endless darkness. I wanted revenge against the Lu family. I wanted to kill Willow Lu, or make her suffer a fate worse than death. But I didn't even have the courage to keep living. On the day I was about to jump into the river, George appeared. He pulled me back and patted my shoulder, saying, As long as you're alive, there's hope. That one short sentence kept me alive. But later, he always stood on the opposite side of my hope. Every time I tried to harm Willow, he would show up immediately and save her. Fortunately, Willow was a despicable person. She felt guilty toward me, so no matter how many times George saved her, She would still betray him for my sake. However, what I never expected was that just when I thought Willow could never die, George killed her himself. I was completely stunned. I couldn't understand why George would do that, but as long as Willow was dead, I was happy. Still, it would have been even better if I had killed her with my own hands. And every time Willow was killed by George, I would wake up from a dream and return to an earlier point in time. I was reborn. I kept killing Willow. George kept saving Willow, and then he would kill her again. We repeated this cycle over and over, working together flawlessly. But just when I grew tired, George suddenly stopped saving Willow. No matter how I hurt her, he no longer interfered. Good. George had finally come to his senses. Without George in my way, I was able to make Willow suffer unbearably, and in the end, I drove her to suicide. Only later, when I accidentally overheard a conversation between George and some kind of system, did I realize that he wasn't from this world. Saving Willow had merely been his mission. I finally understood, but then I thought, he had failed his mission and given it up, and he couldn't save his mother. He must have been in pain. So, when George was about to leave this world, I found that system and gave it all the money I had earned. I thanked him. It was he who fulfilled my wish to take revenge on the Liu family and kill Willow. The system granted me one wish. I chose to return to the past and save my parents. I think the heavens have treated me kindly for letting me meet George.